Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome to all the students to the induction program session. Today we have Dr. Kiran Magavi with us. She'll be delivering the induction program session today. I'll just give a brief introduction about Madam. Dr. Kiran is a visiting faculty in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at MSRIT. Her education spans across English literature, law, and management. Her focus areas are training and development, content development, and pedagogy. She has taught subjects related to communication skills, human resource management, and organization behavior. Takes a keen interest in student monitoring and counseling. She has completed her PhD in human resources management from Jain University. She has a very vast experience on the professional side, and she's a very expert trainer in soft skills and HR training, and also evaluator. And she has trained many faculty, many industry people, and participated in many leadership development programs. She has a large number of publications also. Madam, we are very happy to have you here to deliver the session. Over to you, madam. You can start your presentation.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. It's indeed a pleasure. And if it is addressing the students who are just stepping into the professional courses, I think it makes a lot more importance that we give them some kind of an orientation towards what the future holds for them. So based on my experience and the way I have dealt with students, their problems, their apprehensions, etc., over the past so many years that I have been a faculty and a trainer, I thought we could give them a small orientation on managing emotions for their own personal as well as their future professional growth. Most of the time, before I start my presentation, my dear students, I would like to give you a small background to why I think this is very important. This particular topic is very important for not just for you, but for anybody who's a learner, who's a human being. A lot of focus, at least for our students who step into the engineering or any other professional course, from the stream of science. Not that the commerce and the humanities streams don't have any challenges, but then looking at the competition that we have and the drive that is there, the push from the parents, the expectations that is set for all of you, and the money that is involved, in the professional courses today, a majority of our students are so focused on their marks, on the credits for the ranks, and the subjects that they are totally involved in, that they somewhere forget the human aspect of it, their own personal growth. The grind begins from standard 10 or maybe even earlier in certain cases. And by the time you finish your 12th or PUC, as we call it in our state, and when you enter the professional courses, somewhere you are happy that you've done well, or perhaps you have earned that seat or you have got that seat, whatever may be your background, but you're lost because you have lost 3 to 4 very good formative teenage adolescent years where your growth has happened mentally, but then the focus was on something that you had to get. Now, this is the scenario, this is the situation, and most of us are helpless unless there has been some kind of a balance from certain parents or certain teachers. Our emotional growth has gone on to a secondary mold. It is almost on the periphery. And once you come into the professional courses, you are again put into another grind, which is of a certain different challenge. Sometimes you're lost. Sometimes you kind of adjust, but many a time, and I have seen this in so many students, you just go with the flow without ever realizing what your actual inherent potential is. And what is playing in all these formative years, in the years of your professional courses, etc.? It's our own emotions. Not all of us are lucky to manage things. Not all of us do have the training or the orientation or suggestions, counseling, mentoring. So we kind of get lost. And even those that have some kind of a positive approach really may not be able to tap their full potential when it comes to their own aptitude and their own talent. So, this is a small background. One small request from my side is, and again, because of my observation, most of us who get into those courses do not really evolve into a certain kind of maturity to get into the professional course. You still behave like a school student. Of course, keep the child in you, keep the childlike spirit in you, no doubt about that. But then the maturity, the sense of maturity to deal with a professional course somewhere is not really on the forefront. So, keeping all these things in mind, I thought, let me give a small orientation to this wonderful, nice topic where all of us are touched with, because we're all human beings. Emotions play a big role in our life. Like it or not, they are there within us. But then how we put forth, how we showcase our emotions is actually very important. And that's what I'm going to deal with this in the next, hour or so. Okay, let's have some points to ponder before we actually begin to discuss in detail about today's topic. So, what are emotions? As the slide says, signals that tell your mind and body how to react. Now, remember, whenever there is a situation, we respond. But then, when we do not have a control over what we are doing, which is our emotions, feelings, moods, etc., we tend to react. And that's not a right thing to do. So, do emotions affect our behavior? Of course, yes. And I have mentioned here a big yes. These are the signals that push us. How you respond with your emotions can not just affect your mental, emotional, and physical health, but also your social relationships and your social competence. Remember, we still live in a society, however individualistic we are, whatever our inclination towards artificial intelligence, towards robotics, towards any advanced technology, we still are part of teams, we still are part of knowledge sharing, we still are humans at the end of the day. So, the way we deal with society, with people around us, actually enables our success, enables our best foot forward for the coming days. So, the way we understand and recognize, acknowledge our feelings and emotions is a sign of good mental and emotional health. And when is this possible? When we begin to realize, take note of how we behave, take note of what we are doing about our feelings, about our emotions, and the way we feel in day-to-day situations. Many a time, you see certain people who are little down, who are little dull in certain situations. Of course, that is very normal and natural. But then there are certain others who simply are in that state forever because they have not been able to identify the reason why they are in that particular state. So let's go forward and find out why it is important to manage emotions. First and foremost, and somewhere we have forgotten that we have to build and bridge relationships. Of course, we will have differences because we are all unique individuals. Our tastes, our qualities, our aptitudes, our attitudes are different. The way we have been raised is different. The cultures that we belong to is, of course, different. So once we realize that we will have to not just adjust, which is not a very nice word, acknowledge that there are differences, we can build stronger relationships. Now, when you know your emotional quotient or your emotional potential, you definitely succeed at school. And I'm not talking about the ranks that you get or the marks that you score, because studies have showed that the intelligence quotient, which we are so used to hearing, isn't it? That, this person is so good at math, this person is so good at social studies, this person has got a 10 on 10 or a CGPA of 9.9, etc. This can happen despite emotional imbalance. It has happened. But then the same people may not be able to use those CGPA marks, ranks, etc. in workplaces, or they may fail to know how to apply that because of the disturbances that they carry forward. Okay, so you will succeed in school if you know how to manage your emotions. Your career goals are set properly. Your personal growth is very healthy, and your mental status, most importantly. See, if you see today's newspaper, there was a very disturbing news about an ex chief minister's daughter having committed suicide. Now, I don't know what happened in the young lady's mind. She was a doctor, and she's quite an achiever, comes from a family of distinguished politicians, was married to a doctor herself. But then there must have been something that must have gone in her mind because she took such an extreme step. And worst of all, she left behind an infant. So think about it. When we don't know what is going on within us, we take these drastic steps. We're not able to address. Of course, the last year, I think, or 18 to 20 months earlier, we saw so many cases. Sushant Singh Rajput was one of them. He's a hero of millions, a smart, handsome young man. He was just like you all, an engineer, knew astrophysics, could see the stars. I mean, who wouldn't know the brilliance of Sushant Singh Rajput? But perhaps he was not able to manage his emotions properly. So, going further, it can also help you connect with your own feelings. Like, suppose I'm feeling a little down today, and I begin to think, why? Generally, I'm a nice, healthy, happy person, but in the last 2, 3 days, something has been bothering me. I'm not relating to my friends properly. I'm not attentive in class. I'm not being able to do my assignments properly. Think, because there could be something that has gone wrong. Okay. This can also turn your intention into action. All of us have certain dreams, aspirations, goals. When you are a balanced person, mentally, physically, emotionally, you can actually chart out an action plan to turn your intention or to divert whatever feelings you have into concrete goals. Your decision making, is definitely better if you have a peaceful emotional status. You will begin to be aware of your emotions because you'll know that there is something that can make you happy. There is something that you have to avoid because that's not your space. So, this discretion, the choice that you make to be in is definitely because of your emotional balance. And then, eventually you do attain that ideal state of trying to be gentle, honest, wise. Now, we are all human beings, and whatever I'm discussing today is related to the mind, the activity of a human being. There is no mathematical precision for that. Always a mathematical sum of 2 plus 2 is 4. Of course, there are other challengers who can even challenge that, so, lateral thinkers, etc. But then, on a normal analogy or a comparison, human behavior cannot be measured to mathematical precision. We can just identify it to its optimum, to its maximum. So let us be aware that although we are fantastic in our emotional balance, some situations in our life or some things that we are not able to control can disturb us. But then a balanced mind recognizes that and bounces back. So, emotional balance comes from having the intelligence of emotion. And I will come to what this means and who propounded that and why it is so important for us to know this right from our formative years of professional education so that you can train your mind to be able to notice and to respond to emotions whenever they arise in situations that we are thrown in. Okay. Now, here are certain objectives that I have drawn, and I hope to achieve them during this next 45 50 minutes. First of all, we should know who this person is, who introduced us to this fantastic concept called emotional intelligence and emotional quotient. I'm not giving you a lecture on this great man, Daniel Goleman, but try to create a general awareness in you so that those of you who are interested can further go study what it is, and especially those that are getting into robotics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. A lot of this cognitive, a lot of our brain activity, behavior, etc., is also studied by experts so that that can be implemented in technology. So some of you who may be interested or who have a vision for yourself to develop in this field, I think Daniel Goleman's works, his TED Talks, his books can be a worthy read on the collateral side of your study. Okay, so a small introduction, maybe I'll spend about 5 minutes on him. Then identify the factors that influence our emotions on a day-to-day basis. Common emotions that we experience every day. Well, let's try and describe them. And definitely empathy as an emotion, how it is most important in today's world, especially in these challenging times. Empathy is trying to know how the other person is feeling, knowing from his perspective. And here I would like to share, all of us know Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, a very proud Indian who has made it to the biggest chair of leadership or the highest chair of leadership. His book is a high recommendation. It is all about empathy. The name of the book is Hit Refresh. He has used a fantastic computer term for his book to remind his readers and so many citizens across the globe to refresh our thinking, to refresh our approach towards life. And what that new approach is empathy. He has given fantastic examples from his own life, his own turmoil, his own trials, the problems he has when it comes to his family, the illnesses that his children face. Satya Nadella sits in a very enviable position, but his personal and private moments are challenging. Okay, we just see him as someone who is a technological leader, but he has a private side to it. And hats off to him. He has actually shared a lot of his own personal trials so that people begin to understand that there are challenges even at the highest chair of leadership and how we can deal with them. And if he has reached there despite all the problems, that means there is something that he has achieved when it comes to emotional balance. And this quality, which I have marked in blue called empathy, definitely I have drawn from there, understood it more from there. Okay. Objective number 5, describe and analyze common defense mechanisms, which may not work for us, but we can develop coping mechanisms. Sometimes we go on the defensive. No, I didn't do it. I did it because, or somebody else is a problem, not me. So these are all defense mechanisms. It may not work for us, but let us look at coping mechanisms, how we can cope with our difficult emotions. Anger, for example. All of us suffer from that some way or the other. Some of us have an outburst. We may even, get into some kind of a dangerous situation. There are some who may suppress it, and that adds to other health issues. So how you respond to anger? What are the coping mechanisms? That also I have collected from various sources, which I will share with you. And last but not the least, coming from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, being a communications teacher myself at our institute, I would definitely want to highlight how emotions impact our communication skills, despite us having some of the finest language ability, coming from a background of the so-called good schools, better schools. Yet, if we do not have a control over a few emotions, and we have not managed them properly, it can impact our communication both ways, positive as well as negative ways. Okay, so these are familiar to you, isn't it? These are basic emotions that all of us deal with. Sometimes we are happy, and the pictures represent a lot of the feelings and the moods that every emotion represents, isn't it? So when you're angry, your body language, the way you respond to your facial expression is different. When you're surprised, it's different. When you are scared, it is something else. When you're disgusted, it's something else. When you're happy, it's elated. See, even when I'm saying those words, there is a tone with which I'm using, to manifest those words or to say those words. So when I'm sad, the word is, the intonation is a little down. So our emotions are there in our day-to-day life. But how do you express these emotions in a healthy way? How do you cope with emotional upsets? And how do you deal with those? Because see, whenever there is an emotion that is affecting you, it affects your people around you. When you're sad and you lock yourself up in your room, or you don't talk to anybody at home, your mother will be the first affected, because she's the one who's going to notice you first. Suppose you have a sibling whom you're very close to, and there is something that that is bothering you, that has upset you. You're not able to converse, you're not able to communicate the same. It will definitely affect. It will make the other person think, what is wrong with this person? And versus if you're angry and your emotional outburst, you throw things, there is some kind of a tantrum, it affects others. Think about at least home people are yours, your own family, your own siblings, your own elders. They may be able to pardon you, but they're not the persons outside of your home. That you should try and inculcate, because the future is professional. The future is you're going to be a career individual. There are outsiders from across the globe, maybe from across the country, from different cultures. How are you going to manifest or show or showcase, exhibit your emotions? So therefore, never ever manifest negative emotions in a very awkward and ugly way. Similarly, let us be graceful in exhibiting or showcasing our positive emotions also. In fact, there is a school of thought which tells us that there is no negative or positive emotion. Emotions are there, it's neutral. It is only how we showcase them that becomes positive or negative. So when your country wins a cricket match, or when your team wins a game, or you have scored exceedingly well, there is a sense of achievement and happiness. It's a very big high. So you come, you hug your parents, see, you have manifested it. You have actually showcased it. Uh, can you be in the same euphoria all the time? No, you cannot continue with the same, because your approach for the next activities have to be decided. Your approach for what next should be good. But if in case you forget that this setback, in case you've not done well, or there's a team failure, or there is something that you were expecting out of a national team and that has not happened, you will pull your socks up, isn't it? You will pull yourself up, because again, you will have to deal with the next situation that comes in your life. So, coping. How do you cope? Now, here's this great organization, behaviorist, industrial psychologist, a management guru, especially for those of us who are in the human resources management. He decided somewhere in the 1970s, through his observation, to study why there are certain people in this world, despite being successful leaders, despite being in some of the high positions, doing very well in college, intelligence quotient very high, why have they failed personally? Why are there maybe divorces in their marriages? Why don't they have good relations with their peers? Why don't they have good relations with their children? Okay, and there are some others, through his observations and studies and papers that he had read, that why there are people who have done so well in college and school, maxed all the papers, the best of credits, the best of marks, have really not progressed higher in their careers. So he fell upon a particular paper that was written by two other researchers on how it's emotional intelligence that matters more, or should be clubbed with intelligence quotient for a person to succeed. Now, let me give you a simple definition of success as how I view it, based on my readings and based on my, what should I say, lectures that I have attended and other case studies that I have read. Success is a relative term. For some, being the CEO of a particular company may be success. For some of us, balancing things, home, career, relationships, siblings, raising the right children, maintaining our health, etc., could be success. You in your maybe first year degree, sailing through well, understanding concepts, trying to be the best engineer in your stream could be success. Success should not come at the cost of something which is very positive, such as health, such as relationships, such as mental status or mental balance. Then I'm afraid, we cannot really relate the term success for that. Okay, so this Daniel Goleman, he then went into an extensive study, and then he came about with 2 or 3 concepts that he gave or propagated, which was very easy for any one of us to learn and find out how we can bring in this kind of emotional balance. So he says it's a scientific fact that emotions precede or they come before thought. Sometimes we just do without thinking, isn't it? Because in our body, emotions run high. They change the way our brains think. Cognitive ability. For some of you who know it, it's okay. But then some of us may not know it. Cognitive ability is our ability to think. It comes from the left brain. Your rational, logical thinking comes because of your cognitive ability. And most of the professional things are done because of your logical reasoning, the left brain thinking. Okay. And in the next few decades to come, particularly when you would have finished your engineering, gone into higher studies, etc., research on cognitive ability is going to be at its prime. There are neuroscientists, neurophysicians who are clubbing with, associating themselves with social scientists, such as sociologists, psychologists, and making path-breaking findings in the cognitive ability of human beings. The ability of the human mind is infinite. I think by now you know that. Okay, so these cognitive abilities actually affect our professional's career, maybe in a very positive way. But if neglected because of the high run of emotions, it can disturb your interpersonal skills or interpersonal relationships. So, understanding and managing our emotions and the emotions of others will actually put us on the right track. So Daniel Goleman, he gave us 4 domains or components that will enable us to understand how we can develop our emotional intelligence and also emotional quotient. Now, you know what a quotient means. A quotient is a sum total of something. So an intelligence, the emotional intelligence, if studied, dealt, analyzed properly, will help us achieve emotional quotient. Now, what are those 4 things that he has actually given us? One is self awareness, our own personality. Who are we? What are our personality type? Do we have these qualities? What is our aptitude? Personality identity is extremely essential in finding out what our emotions can do to complement our personal identity or self. Now, managing that particular identity, our own self management, how can you expect another person to manage you? You are unique. You should know yourself better. Your self respect, self esteem, self quotient should be known to you first. In our scriptures, if I can go back to a little bit of a spiritual and religious side, and of course, I'm sure this is available in some form of the other in other religions as well. But there is something called the atma, the concept of the inner being that we have. So look into that. This is a right age to begin. I'm not asking you to become a monk or a guru or get into high-end spiritual learning. If you're interested, good for you. But then for some of us who simply don't have any orientation to it, it's good to begin, towards reading. Don't simply blindly chant mantras, go do some yogic poses, etc., without really understanding its impact on us. Okay, introspect a little. It will help you find a little bit of your own personal identity. And that personal identity will also help you manage yourself. Okay, you have taken care of yourself, you have known your identity. What about the social awareness, the society around you? In Kannada, we say, what about samaja? Samaja, समाज कुछ भी बोलता है, of course समाज कुछ भी बोलता है, but हमको समाज में रहना है. We have to stay in the society. We cannot be aloof. Even if you are aloof, there will be environment with you. There will be other animals with you. There will be trees, plants, rivers. So you are on planet Earth, surrounded by something of a society. Society need not be only human beings, my dear friends. It could be any living creature with you. You will have to be in communion with that. So some sense of social awareness. And that happens when you have empathy. And I'll come to that maybe a little later. And of course, this relationship management, how you're going to deal with others if in case you are around people that matter to you, that matter to your personal as well as your professional progress. Now, when I say personal, at this point in time, it could be your classmates, it could be your teachers, it could be the benchmates, your teammates, the lab mates that you are clubbed with. You know, these are all people you have to have a professional relationship with. So you cannot expect everybody to be like you. As much as you are unique, there's another individual who is unique. Understand those differences, have a sense of mutual appreciation. A small reminder out here, when I say have a sense of mutual appreciation and acceptance, never get carried away by blind faith as well. You know, there are people who play certain types of negative games upon you, or there are people who defend themselves despite their shortcomings. Don't be apologetic there. Ignore them, but never get into that trap. Okay? Never get into that trap. So that's why I said introspect on all these four. If any of you want to discuss this, or if you feel that there is something that you need a hand holding for, and you know you need some kind of assistance here, of course we are there in the department. You can come and approach us. That's not at all a problem. Now, having spoken about the Goldman and what he did and why he decided that you know emotions should be managed and that should be taught, that should be oriented to right at a young age, let us find out what are our emotions. So as I said a little while ago, emotions are neither good nor bad. They are there within us. Happiness, sadness, love, fear, guilt, anger, hostility, and host of other regular emotions which we tend to experience on a day-to-day basis. Feeling bad or emotional when things happen in your life is normal. Don't ever think that there is a place on this earth where you know you're safe without experiencing emotions. I don't think there is any other corner in this world which I can name where you're safe. No, you will express and you will experience some kind of emotion. The way you express your emotions, however, can produce good or bad results. Now, these feelings can be managed, and hence this talk. A small sense of warning that comes at the end of the slide. It says avoid. Do not be an intentionally unfriendly or offensive person. Your offensive behavior intentionally. See, many a time we do things unintentionally. Mistakes happen. I mean, you're taken by surprise. Your expectation about a certain individual or a certain situation, certain performance, you know, is has baffled you, and that time, of course, you will react instead of respond. But then you'll pull your socks up again and move on. But then there are certain negative people. Maybe they're insecure, or maybe they kind of have some kind of a wrong concept of themselves, or they look down upon another. They are generally the hostile individuals, and they need help, not you. Okay, so rage, hostility, this is a form of anger. Anger by itself can be a positive emotion. At this point, you know, when we just pass through our Republic Day, and this time, I think the nation paid tribute to the great Subhash Chandra Bose. He was angry. He definitely wanted, freedom at any cost because he didn't want to be a slave under a foreign power. So he went and met even the most dangerous man at that time, Hitler. It was his anger because of the situation that the country was in. But then what did he do? He manifested or used that same anger to produce the Indian National Army, to manage that particular group of soldiers who were there with him to give the most ultimate sacrifice for the nation. So anger is not a negative or a positive emotion. It is an emotion that lives in you. As much as excessive love is bad, excessive anger or excessive anything for that matter is poisonous. Okay. Now, what do you need to do if you have to manage or cope with your emotions? First of all, ask yourself these questions. Why do I feel the way I do about this particular event? It could be a very sour incident or some kind of a communication gap that you may have had with your one of your teachers. It's not that the teacher is bad or you're bad. Somewhere there is some situation or something that has arisen that is not going in sync with the two of you. Sit down and introspect. Will this event matter later in my life? I mean, you know, this person is there with you for the next 4 years. Please go and bridge that difference. Please go and manage that situation. Talk it out. Okay. Now, why should I wait before responding? Most of us make this mistake of reacting. Even me, who I'm, I'm talking to you as somebody who is an expert in this area or has had experience. No, my dear friends, I'm also human. I have made this mistake. But then, I have gone back and I have retrospected. Do I need to respond or should I need to respond to this person in this way? Or should I just ignore and find out methods to deal with this person or deal with this situation? Okay. So, why should I wait before responding? Because we do not want to strain and create a very bad, ugly atmosphere around us. What can I do to feel better? What do I do so that I can cope with this emotion? Who can I ask to help me deal with my negative feelings? You have some resources within you. You have tried your best to resolve and to bring in solutions for your own bad emotional manifestations or emotional issues. But sometimes things are out of our control, and that is when we need to seek the help of a medical professional or a counselor to begin with, your own proctor or whoever you feel comfortable with in your house. Sometimes, even as parents, we are not able to deal with the challenges of our children, challenges of their emotional imbalance. So, we will have to seek help of certified counselors. Please don't go and discuss this with neighbors, elders, relatives, however good those individuals are. Hey, no, it's okay. You may be stressed, or it's all just some kind of predictions which may not be scientific, which may not be procedural, which may not be methodical. But when you meet a trained, certified counselor, that person will be able to deal with your emotional imbalance or sad state or low feelings, whatever you may be feeling, which is not progressive for you. Okay. So dealing with emotions in a positive way help you recognize your emotions, and you will also come out productive after having dealt with it in safe ways. And then, there is also this problem called intensity of emotions. And at your age, it could be the attraction of another person of the opposite gender. You feel intensely. Remember, you're just 19 or 18, your emotions are running high. There is an adrenal rush. The hormones within you is in a rush. So what do? There is an intense sense of feeling. There could be intense love or infatuation towards somebody. There could be some kind of an elation because it's a new atmosphere, new college, a professional course. There are parents' expectations from you. There is self expectations that you want to be like this one, like that one, this company, that company, an IAS officer later. So there is this intensity of emotions. So how are you going to manage them? Only find out certain coping mechanisms that can be safe for you and that can also propel you further or push you further in a very positive way. Now I'm going to deal a little bit on how we have to understand our own self, the self-awareness and self-management, which our expert Daniel Goleman told us about. Now, each one of us is a complex set of features. X is different, Y is different, and X and Y can be totally different from A, B, and C. When I stand in front of you while I'm dealing in the class, there are about 65 to 70 on an average in the class. I can see so many different personalities. just through that simple glance of that eye contact with all of you. Some of you are attentive listeners. Some of you know the subject, so you just set aside because ours is a communication skills topic. Some of you may have come with that kind of training and development and all of those areas. Then, even when I'm reading certain essays that you write, such a reflection of, excuse me, of your personality, so which means that each one of us is unique. So, as someone said, you're born original, why do you want to die a copy? Right? Xerox is not a nice name for a personality. So, it is you that makes yourself different from everyone else. Of course, there are certain set of characteristics that we look forward to in each student, which is common. Each one of us can have certain common things also. But then there are certain unique things that are there in each one of you for which you will have to tap. So, therefore, personality is an important factor in how you choose to meet your challenges, to meet your needs. Okay. Each one's emotional makeup is different, each one's attitude is different, thought processing is different, behaviors are different. And here I'm not talking about bad behavior, even in good behavior. See, some people are silent, they just simply smile. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Some people, why, ma'am? Why can't we do it this way? That's that person. He's a little more maybe intuitive, or he wants to probe further a little more. Some of us may go back home and think about it, and then maybe look up in a book or something like that. So when I say each person's behaviors are different, I'm not talking about bad behavior, which is, let's not even talk about it, right? Rudeness, uncivil, no etiquettes, these kind of things. I don't think I have come across students on a regular basis who do have bad behaviors. Even in the good behavior, an average child, average student, each one of you, some of you, you approach your teacher. Hi, ma'am, can I help you? Are you going somewhere? Can I carry your textbooks? That's also nice. Then there is someone else, good afternoon, ma'am. Some others, they just move away. As long as you don't harm, as long as you don't vitiate and poison that atmosphere around you, your behavior is good itself. Okay. So you need your own self-awareness. What are those factors that influences our self-concept? I'm told it is environment, the environment that you grow in, the environment are you currently in, the environment that you come from. Okay. That could be your parents, the background of your city, the background of your culture, the background of your religion sometimes. That's why, we need to sensitize and neutralize our feelings. Things should be kept at a personal level when it comes to our beliefs, when it comes to our religious feelings. Why do you think is there so much of disturbance across the globe? Because we have mixed our personal environment with a professional one, with the one outside of us. Our education, isn't it? A doctor thinks in a different manner, which is befitting for their profession. A lawyer is something else. A teacher is something else. A nurse is something else. So our self-concept is determined by first our environment, our education, and of course, across the globe, across professions, across genders, what were the kind of experiences that we have had and we continue to have? That determines our self concept. A person could be diffident, shy, inferior, feeling inferior, if in case he comes from an environment of disturbance, an environment, or if he has had an experience of maybe some kind of abuse, some kind of negative feelings all the time, overbearing parents, or no secure atmosphere at home, he could be a little diffident. He could be a little introverted or maybe shy. Introversion is not really shy. It is not showcasing a lot overtly. Okay. So, who is an extroverted person? Maybe because his experience has been a little more better, or he's defending or his own shyness with an outburst, maybe. So, all these basic features that we have in our personal identity is usually determined by these three broad factors: the environment that we are in, and also where we belong to, the education that we have been in. And here, I'm not talking about literacy, also, mind. Education is also a cultural context. It's also what you have been taught on the social context at home, right? So why are children facing a lot of problems when it comes to the social context today? Perhaps with the diminishing of the joint families, the elders being at home, where both parents working, they may not have had an orientation. Parents might have been busy, so they may not have had a social context. So therefore, there is a little bit of a difference in their personality. And of course, the experiences that we have had. I'll just take a sip of water, please. So, what do you think are things involved if we have to develop our personal side or our personality? First of all, recognize your interests and aptitude. If I have to give a personal example, somewhere around the standard 9 or standard 10, I realized mathematics was not my forte. I did like some amount of science, but not the calculations of physics, calculations of chemistry, because that had to do a lot with uh, mathematics. I did read up a lot about scientists and engineers and all of that because I was interested in the social aspect of it, on the humanities aspect of it. And I loved literature. So, and thanks to my parents, maybe, they kind of allowed me to discover my interests and also the aptitude. Now, what's the difference between attitude and aptitude? Attitude is something that you develop, that's something you learn, but aptitude is inherent, the ability which is there within you. That you will have to discover to find out who you are. Of course, your likes and dislikes, that could be something as common as the colors that you choose, the environment that you like to holiday in. You know, I'm more of a hill person, somebody else is a beach person. And then also on a serious note, the likes and dislikes of certain individuals, you know, the chemistry that is there between two individuals, two friends, this is all attributed to the likes and the dislikes that you possess. It's not that, you know, because you're not friendly with the person, that that person is bad or you're bad. It is just that there is no sync or a complementary feeling between the two. Therefore, you know, you have your own likes and dislikes, your talents and abilities. That has got to do so much with your interests and aptitude. I don't know whether to say whether aptitude is first and talent is next, or vice versa. But if you tap your aptitude and talent, your ability will automatically be there because it kindles, it kind of fires your passion towards that particular area that you want to reach. Of course, the value systems, the beliefs, and the goals across the globe, across cultures, however small, large, unique, minute, etc. It could be tribal, it could be, I don't know, a large unit of individuals practicing a certain religion. There are a set of values, beliefs, and goals which every country, every culture propagates. So understand what are those values, beliefs, and goals. Sometimes you may have differences, try to avoid them, but ensure that you're honest to your likes and it should not harm. And this is where, again, I'm reminding you of empathy. Empathy is not a separate chapter where you study what are the features of empathy, describe empathy, etc. It should be in your bloodstream. You should carry it on your shoulder because it can be applied in every situation of life. Okay, so your values, beliefs, and goals. What are those things that will attribute to your personal identity? And remember, as you mature, as you grow, it is important to recognize the developmental assets that will help you build a positive identity. For example, suppose your passion is, say, mathematics. You will have to advance yourself, you know. And if you have a passion for it, if you have a certain inclination for that, your emotion will be of interest all the time, the feeling rather, if not emotion. But then suppose you happen to fail, say in your first year or second year, and God forbid you did not prepare for that particular subject. It should not be that you're so disgusted or you're so sad about it that whatever was there as an ability within you, that you have neglected it because of a small setback. I remember talking to one of my nephews, who was studying in Bombay. He said, I don't know, in that particular college I went to, the physics teacher that was teaching me, somehow we did not have some kind of sync with each other. And I thought I could do something with physics, but then, this person just made the class so uninteresting for me while the others enjoyed it. I don't know, somehow I could not. He did not do very well, and ultimately he neglected the entire subject. Now, I thought that was a very bad thing to do. Of course, I was very young at the time. I really did not know how to advise this cousin of mine. But imagine, in hindsight, when I think about it, a person or somebody else should not determine your interests. Okay, if you've had setbacks, pull up, find out why, introspect, as I said. Remember when our Mars, this one failed, the Prime Minister came here, congratulated the team because he said, so what if there is a small setback? You'll have done such great work. You'll have done such great, commendable hours you've spent on doing it. I'm sure there is a next time, isn't it? So your maturity should be able to tell you that setbacks are okay, failures are okay, pitfalls are okay. But then if it is within you, if there is something that you have as an aptitude and talent, it's up to you to really manage that disgust and sadness and come out of it. Now remember, working toward a healthy identity. First, recognize your strengths and weaknesses. We all have them. We have our strengths too, we have our weaknesses too. There was a time, trust me, my dear friends, when if in case you did not do engineering, or if you did not do medicine or some of those science related fields, people would make you feel very small. Oh, what are you doing commerce for? What did you do in accountancy, etc.? Are you studying history? Are you studying English literature, wasting 3 years of your college degree years studying something that is so irrelevant? That was how it was. But suppose someone like me was feeling bad about it, that, oh, I'm not going to be an engineer. I may not draw a paycheck of lakhs of rupees like how my other cousins do or how my other classmates have done. I would have never been the positive teacher or inclined towards being a learner all my life. I was very proud of what I was studying. I also was encouraged by my teachers. I had fantastic teachers. There was a bit of a nice atmosphere at home as well. And I tried to improve because even this is necessary, isn't it? In this wheel of education, every cog connects. Why do you think there is a Department of Humanities and Social Sciences in an engineering college? Because we have to complement each other. Whatever technology cannot recognize, there is something that a management stream can do. There is something that a communication skill subject can do, because we are all interdependent and intercorrelated to one another. So recognize your strengths and weakness. Demonstrate positive values. One is lifelong learning, lifelong improvement, maturity that you have to develop as you grow older. Develop a purpose in your life. Of course, your profession is important to you. Why that profession? It should not be only the money or the status that you have, something that you have or can connect to either your family or your own society around you, isn't it? I find it lovely when some of the students, they come and they tell us, ma'am, I come from this place. I'm the only graduate in my family. I mean, only person who's going to do engineering in my family. I want to make my parents proud. I want to make my village proud. I mean, that's a socially aware concept. Try and be attach some value to the society that you belong to, the family that you belong to, or whatever you recognize as your own in a society. Form meaningful relationships. I'm not asking, preaching that you can be friends with everybody. You cannot. Each one of us is different. There are very few people that maybe you can compliment with, but then that doesn't mean that you look down on another or you be rude to another, isn't it? So if you have a sense of empathy, you can form meaningful relationships. Continuing with the purpose in your life, contribute something to the community and give back. Try and do something. And see, even we have in our own colleges and courses some amount of credits that are allotted for community work, community service. Why is that? It's not that, people have some grand ideas. It is a habit that we have to inculcate. Otherwise, we begin to neglect something that we are not directly involved with, and that can become a global issue. Okay. Avoid unhealthy, risky behaviors, anger, manifestation of anger, especially. Develop coping mechanisms. Of course, the sense of self esteem and positive attitude. And last but not the least, be realistic, either in your strengths or weakness. Don't be so positive that, it could be the reason for your downfall. And also practice gratitude. Somebody is better than you, somebody is wealthier than you. Many times our emotions are determined because of our comparisons, which is so horrible, isn't it? Oh, I wish I was in this course. What did I do with my career? I could have studied a little more harder. And if you're thinking about it 20 years later, unless you're driven and you go and join to that program again or the course again, there's no point feeling sad about what happened 20 years ago. Just learn from those mistakes, whatever you are in, be grateful for it and move on. Now, there is something called behavior and how it affects our decision making, and where do emotions play here. Now, the personality that we were discussing in the last two slides is actually determined by the way we deal with emotions. First of all, your decisions. If you do not have a proper self concept, you follow the crowd, you follow the herd, right? If you have what you are, a sense of an approach to your own abilities and your shortcomings, then your decision making becomes fair. Also remember, whatever decisions you make, they have consequences. Okay, I decided to join this college, take this branch of engineering. Perhaps you could have been taken the help of your parents or your mentors or your teachers in your school, etc. But those will have consequences which you have to be responsible for. Oh, ma'am, I was not interested in it. My parents made me do it. Yes, this scenario exists. I'm very carefully and responsibly telling this. But sense of gratitude, if you have that, well, it's okay. Perhaps my parents believe that I can make a career out of it. Maybe I was confused. I really did not know what to do. Let me see how I can sail through this with some amount of dignity. And then later on, figure out it's not too late, isn't it? So many entrepreneurs have come about, so many. See, let me give you an example. This Dolo 650 that has become so famous during this pandemic actually is a product of a company called Micro Labs. Now, one of the area of research that I did in HRM was from that particular company about 4 or 5 years ago when I took the samples. Now, if I have to look back, I never expected in 2016-17 that Micro Labs and Dolo is going to be so popular in our market. And if you look at the founders of that particular company, they have no graduation, they have no learning in pharmacy or pharmacology or medicine or anything. They were driven by passion to create some kind of a business and employ people around them. There are more than 30,000 employees that they have in their company. They've treated them well because I was looking at their human resources policy. So, what am I trying to say? Your decisions actually will have consequences and you will have to take responsibility. If it works, also take the credit. If it doesn't work, take the responsibility on find solutions for that. So if it has a negative impact, your actions, you have to take responsibility for that. So avoid these things of, comparison. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have taken this decision or made this decision. The decision has happened, but then there is always a scope for the correction of that decision. Okay. So if you want a quality in life, if you want good levels of physical, emotional balance, mental balance, please be realistic and accept, take onus, take responsibility for whatever decisions that you have taken. Now we come to something called social emotional learning. What is this and how does it promote your approach towards a professional growth? Now, this is a broad term. It is communication with others, it is a compassion, it is empathy that we have asked you to recognize. It is hard for us not to be emotional. That is the first thing that you have to realize. There's this word called stoic, stone like. Nothing can move this person, nothing can affect this person, because the person has made it that way. It's not, or there could be another problem as well, but I'm talking about a normal individual. You had your captain cool in Mahendra Singh Dhoni, a cricketer. Even in his best moments, there was no outburst of emotions. Even in his worst moments, he was doing fine, right? So what are the better example that you have from a cricketing field where majority of you are interested in the game? So do not suppress your emotion, manage them. Do not be expressive too much, manage them. Also, one more thing, in at workplace, never be gullible. Don't be so emotional and carried away with people's stories, people's weaknesses, people's problems, that you forget your own and you will be taken for a jolly ride. That also is a problem if you are sensitive to emotions. Okay, find out what are stressors that is spoiling our moods, spoiling our life. Is it time management? Is it procrastination? Is it your inability to adapt to change? Find out your triggers and stresses. That will actually help you cope with emotions in your workplace. And that is the way we deal with social emotional learning. The time is the same for everybody in society. How come X has completed his task while Y has not? Because X knows how to manage his time. He has managed his family well. He has managed his class well. He has managed his relationships well within that 24-hour period. But somehow Y has neglected it. So handling our emotions, particularly negative ones, is often seen as a measure of professionalism. Now, a small note on hormones. Again, this particular slide tells us that hormones affect our emotional health if not managed. Now, how do you manage something that is so chemically inclined in your body? Wait, be patient, maintain good health. Okay. And if in case there is a hormonal imbalance, please seek medical help. There could be certain health issues, certain medical problems within you, and we have fantastic doctors and medical professionals who could help you. Maybe your emotions are triggered because of hormonal imbalances. It happens in women, I'm told, at a certain age later. Please seek help. This is what this particular slide says. Okay, because hormones are there within us and they affect and they trigger our emotions, our chemical imbalances that happen within our body. So I thought it was very necessary for me to share this. Many of you may know it, but may have not recognized it. Okay. Now, some strategies. Let's look at certain positive strategies to deal with our emotions. First of all, don't take action on a strong feeling until you have thoroughly considered what those consequences of your actions will be. I will do it, hook or by crook. So you stay up all night, you don't take enough rest, you don't take care of your body, and then you crash. The day you have to perform something, you crash. Remember, an Olympian should be running that one race of her life or his life, but then there are 4 years of practice behind that. Imagine at the last moment the person crashes, then what's the use, isn't it? So also understand that the way you chart out your emotional balance or your coping mechanisms should not have negative impact. Then auto talk to yourself, inspire yourself, encourage yourself, neglect feelings that trigger your negativity. Make it a point. That should be a conscious effort within you. Then another thing is, please engage in certain physical activities. If you are a normal individual without any health issues, you must involve in physical activity. I can make out from the body language, since we deal with body language in our communicative English classes and skills classes. So many students, they are very normal in their health and in their appearance, in their physical attribute, but the body language is so weak and lazy at the age of 18 and 19. That kind of bothers me. I make it a point to tell those people, please be physically active. Please have, engage in a sport or engage in some kind of a physical activity and physical fitness. Now, suppose there is some negative feeling that is bothering you all the time, some kind of sadness, some kind of, you're unable to come out of it, seek help. Okay. Healthcare professionals, the best one, if the others can't help you. Look at the surface of your emotion. Why am I feeling so sad? See, we don't really discuss happiness, isn't it? Because everybody loves it. But then you cannot be in that mental state of elation. Being happy is a normal emotion. Come what may is a normal emotion. But in a very serious situation, when something has happened, which is so bad, and yet you are happy, then I think there is something wrong with you. Okay. So we are not discussing happiness or excitement, etc. We're talking about something that can pull you down terribly. That is where you'll have to look at the surface of the emotion. Why? Go deep down. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I not motivated every day to go to college? Why am I not motivated to complete my tasks? Okay. And see, this habit of time management, managing your assignments properly, doing things with a lot of honesty, actually becomes your personal identity, and you carry this even in your professional life. It's not that one fine day I get a job and I turn into a new leaf. No, I'm afraid not. In fact, you get an opportunity, and if you don't know how to perform well there, that's an opportunity lost if you have not developed these habits. It does not happen overnight unless there is some kind of a miracle. I don't know. So consider whether or not the situation to which you are reacting will matter tomorrow, next week, or next year. One small setback should not be a life determining thing for you. Okay, it has happened, brush it across, move on. Some cuts are pretty deep, some experiences are pretty deep. It is rather inhuman to expect the person to come out of it soon. No, like, I was talking to somebody the other day. It so happened that this person was in an accident. He was involved in an accident where the person who was driving the bike died, and he kind of survived. These two are friends. You can't expect the person to come out of that shock within a week or a month's time. But he cannot brood in that accident. He cannot brood in that misery all the time. He has to come out of it some way or the other, because he has his own social context. He has his own family to, take care of. He has his parents whom he has to be answerable to. But then expecting him to, come out and, be a perfect individual also is wrong. So see whether that particular incident or that particular emotion matters to you in the long run. Then, cope with it. Otherwise, it's very easy to brush it aside if it is simple setbacks, which we make a total mountain out of a molehill. The next few slides are coping and managing difficult emotions, some suggestions. As I said, recognize the emotion. Slow, deep breaths and relaxing sometimes helps. And that's why, people say pranayama, yoga in the right sense of the term. Yoga is not a physical fitness exercise only, it is also a mental and spiritual exercise. Meditation, yoga, prayer, whatever you may call. Compose yourself. And that composition is develop a hobby, try to look good, try to look fit, try to be fit, not look fit, be fit. Make your choices in such a way that it is an attraction rather than some kind of a distraction. Okay. Analyze the situation that you are in, which is bothering you. Always keep a private journal in times when you are down. Repeating certain good things also is important. Also repeating solutions for the things that that are pulling you down is fine. And this is one fantastic way of managing difficult emotions is playing music, learning an instrument, or developing an interest in some genre of music which you possess or which you like, which has come down in your family tradition. But do not neglect music. Music is the sound of the earth, as they say. It is a synchronized sound that can appeal to you. But then music is also a variety. There are some things that may not attract me. There are some things that attracts me. Find that out. Your personal self-awareness will help you here. Now, defense is not a right mechanism. There are certain big terms here. I don't want to go into those details, but defending yourself to cover up your emotions, cover up your negative side is not something that is recommended. So, if I have to brush through, there is something called repression, which is involuntarily, without addressing it, pushing it aside. Trust me, someday it will, manifest. It will come up, it will resurface. Whatever you have bottled, you have repressed and suppressed, which is the second one, will come out somewhere. And that is going to be like a volcano that can outburst. Okay, that can have one of the most fatal outbursts. There are many criminal studies that have found out that a suppression or a repression of emotions has actually made a very good person a criminal because the outburst was so bad. Then, there's this third one called rationalization, which is trying to make excuses. No, actually, it is not me. It is not, my fault. Trying to put the blame or analyze in such a way that you escape from that particular very cleverly and cunningly, So making excuses to explain a situation or behavior rather than taking responsibility for it. The great Abdul Kalam, and there was a failure to took responsibility personally. But when the project was a success, he attributed to the team. So imagine the maturity of the individual, right? That's the way, that's the example that we have to look up. Regression, reverting to behaviors more characteristic of an earlier stage rather than dealing with the conflict in a mature manner, slapping back, reacting back, blaming your parents for your situation, although they have done nothing out of it. That is regressive, taking you backward rather than making you mature. So don't be immature, childish, 10th standard, typical that mentality that, I'm here because my parents have put me here. My uncle has influenced me. My brother did this to me. My teachers have done this to me. No, what are you doing, my friend? So try and be mature in the way you look at things. This is a second one, which I would like you to avoid as much as possible. Again, there are terms for that. Compensation, making up for weaknesses and mistakes through gift giving, extreme efforts, buttering individuals. You compensate for your own setbacks and emotions. You want to be a friend of somebody, the person is simply not interested in you, but then you lure that person by giving expensive gifts, but trying to be friendly, although the person may be neglecting you. Why not? There are some people who do not want you. Good for you, good for them. There are some others that are there for you. So do not compensate with these materialistic things for the emotions that you are suffering. Then projections, attributing your own feelings or faults to another or somebody else in the group, which is again wrong. Okay, idealization, that is having this ideal, excellent mindset that you may not be achievable, which is not achievable. There is nothing called an ideal situation. This is life. The university of life does not have syllabus. It does not have a CGPA. It does not have internal assignments and internal assessments. So there is nothing called an ideal situation. Oh, I did well in college. My CGPA is 10. So life also is going to be 10 for me. No way. So to do not be in an ideal state, try to achieve going there. It's good to have ideals, but there is nothing called idealization that works. And of course, worse is living in denial of your emotions. No, I'm not angry. No, I'm not sad. No, I don't have depression. And, you kind of deny yourself of a treatment or a solution. Now, here are some better ways, more ways to manage difficult emotions. Handling fear, which most of us have, especially fear of the unknown. Overcoming fear requires a strategy. Some amount of fear is good. It's natural, like how some stress is actually good because it pushes you, isn't it? there is a certain fear. Oh, what if I don't do well or tap my potential? So that is something that we will have to welcome. But irrational or uncontrollable fear, despite solutions, despite counseling, then you need a strategy to come out of it. Dealing with guilt, we make mistakes, we also make amends, we also correct our mistakes, we also resolve it. Then there are some things that we are responsible for, there are some things that are out of our control. So don't feel guilty of something that you couldn't help move out. And of course, this anger management, that's another topic altogether. You need to find your source of your anger. What is it that triggers your anger so much? And you have to deal with it. Now, here are certain suggestions, the right mechanisms, things to do if you feel emotional. Fake it till you make it is what it says, because you will have to push yourself. There is nothing else that can make you do it except yourself. First, get into that positive approach, and then once you begin to self-talk, auto-suggest, it can be achieved, coming out of that emotion. Time is the healer at times. Label the emotion, whether it is depression, whether it is sadness, whether it is disgust, whether it is fear, you have to name it. See a therapist. Then let yourself feel the emotion. You cannot escape it. Experience it. Engage in a healthy habit. First and foremost, develop a hobby, develop a special interest beyond your regular routine, beyond your studies. So these are good ways of dealing or coping mechanisms that we can do. Last objective I've come to as a communications teacher. Why is emotion important in communication? Remember, communication is our day-to-day. I mean, every second we are communicating. Emotions are personal and they're also social. They are a communication tool. Our expressions, whenever we are in an emotional state, is what I can make out if the person is sad, if the demeanor, if the body language of the person, if the expression on the face is one of sadness. You cannot cheat. Body language cannot be faked after a particular time, maybe a few seconds or maybe a minute. After that, it just gives way. So emotions link our physiological states to our conscious experience. So it tells us how we feel. That's what I said. It can be made out through your physique. Your body language is actually a representation of your emotion. So it can also trigger, your emotions can also trigger, your readiness, or your eagerness to prepare. If in a class, for example, when I say, okay, so can somebody talk about this subject? That there's someone who is very ready to do that. There is someone who is hiding behind somebody. See, these are all emotions. One may be fearful. The other one may be confident of that particular topic. Nevertheless, it is communication. Okay. Emotional expressions are necessary to enhance messages, to convey the truthfulness or the authenticity, and to develop trust. If you fake emotions, there is no trust. There is no authenticity. So your emotions actually convey a lot through communication. So, and how we interact. See, our emotions actually can determine our relationships, as we have been seeing in the last so many minutes. So how do you deal with these social relationships? Because of your bad communication, or is it because of your good communication? More often than not, it is because of a neutral communication, which is almost good all the time. Good is neutral communication. Even when you have to express negative feelings, there is a certain way to express it. I had a small stint of training engineers at the Infosys Narayan Murthy Leadership Foundation, where young recruits, they used to come to learn communicative skills for the workplace. And we used to spend half a day on training our recruits how to say no, how to give feedback, how to say something which is not very pleasant, how to convey an unpleasant message, how to oppose, So for everything, there is a certain tone, there is a certain emotion. Imagine you are there under a boss later on in your life who's simply suppressing you, who's simply being extremely dictatorial. Don't you want to express your unpleasantness? But then you will have to, otherwise it will kill you. Worse, you will leave a good job. You will not leave a company. You will leave a boss, right? So how are you going to communicate that? Your emotions, your confidence, your self-identity, your training, your experience, your education, these things matter at that time. So what are the emotional factors that affect communication? Anxiety, fear, especially in our communication. We may not be comfortable talking to strangers. Stage fear is another thing. Anxiety, because we don't know. We are not aware. We have not upgraded ourselves. We have not kept in touch with the latest happenings. So, this can cause anxiety and fear, which are triggered because of our lack of awareness. Okay, so there are various types of anxiety that influence an individual's communication skills and style. How does that happen? For example, social anxiety can prevent you from approaching strangers at a party or at get togethers. The world is actually made of so many strangers, but then some of the strangers you cross paths for a purpose. That could be at a railway station, that could be at an airport. You may be exchanging a seat, you may be helping another, somebody may come to you for help. You're struggling, and if there's no one coming for you to help, that means there is some kind of an emotional gap there. But if I'm forthright, if you are forthright, you go help the individual. That means you do not have the fear of the stranger. You do not have the fear of helping another person. You do not feel anxious. Oh, what if that person is not nice? What if that person harms me? All these premeditated, preconceived notions you may have. So, generic anxiety, of course, is there in all of us, isn't it? That's why we are precautious. We take caution. But then, if that continues to be, then you become a socially awkward individual. I mean, I see that, when there are students, we use the lift. That's the common mode of commuting from stairs, isn't it? From floor to floor. There are some students, they may give you a smile. Maybe the person is not known to you, the teacher is not known to you, not in your branch. But then there are some others, hello, ma'am, if they understand that this is some, hello, ma'am, or they flash a smile, that means there is some kind of a communication because of the person's comfortable level. This can be neglected, it's not so important. But then imagine in an office or in a workplace or in your own departments, if you have that fear and anxiety of talking to individuals, talking and addressing your issues, then that could be a bit of a problem in your communication. Public speaking, stage speak, presentation skills can be extremely difficult if you do not overcome your fears, upgrade your skills, upgrade your competencies, and also try to be better than yesterday. Your benchmark should be you, not XYZ. Of course, you can learn from another, there is nothing to stop that. But then you can also be your own comparison. How better am I today vis a vis yesterday, or how I was yesterday? So these are my final remarks. Emotional balance, it occurs when we ourselves feel better, when we ourselves manage how to cope with it. We should not be stifled. We should not feel suffocated or overwhelmed by somebody or situations. You should begin to accept your feelings, accept your situation. Each person's shoe hurts, and only the person knows where or which part of the feet is hurt because of the situation he is in. So do not think that XYZ is great, ABC is lucky, I'm unlucky. There should be an acceptance of the fact that we are all going through some situations in our life. Do not allow situations to overwhelm you to such an extent that you're not able to bounce back. Being out of balance, wrong thing to do. Emotionally usually involves either not allowing yourself to experience or feelings, or you avoid situations. So I don't want to go there. I will be hurt. I don't want to talk to this person. He's too strict. He's too demanding. Oh, manage it. Communicate it. Okay. So do not suppress your feelings. Your feelings become all consuming. They then, instead of propelling you or pushing you, they are the ones that contain you. They are the ones that suffocate you. Avoidance does not work, because pain, pleasure and pain in the right measure is life. It's you're too young, too protected, maybe. That's why I said once you enter the portals of an engineering college, have the maturity, the first steps of maturity of a professional. 4 years down the line, you will be facing situations. 3 years, 3.5 years down the line, I'll be facing interviews, right? I will be facing certain technical rounds, certain personal rounds, HR rounds. That could be odd, that could be awkward. Am I going to feel overwhelmed, or am I going to face it with dignity? Okay, so go through the pain. Now you go through the pain, later it's going to be normal for you. Do not extend or intensify anything. Nothing in this world, even the most difficult trauma, can have a solution. Of course, certain things take time, as I said. Certain things we can bounce back immediately. Certain things, the tragedies that some people face, losing everybody, um, especially in the recent pandemic. Look at the plight of our laborers. Look at the plight of our poor in the first two waves. The migration laborers. I mean, we have so many stories. Have that sense of gratitude that at least you were not part of it. You have your own pain. Of course, you have to face it. But then nobody can escape pain. You cannot avoid it. The status of one's emotional balance is never static. In my teenage years, I was so good. In my school life, everything was fine. I don't know why. We always go back to our school life, because while we were in school, it was painful for us. While we get out of school, we know how beautiful that life was. Same thing happens in your 4 years of your stay at our institute. You may find it extremely painful. There are so many memes, there are so many jokes made on the engineering branches and streams and everything. But then once you go out of it, you look back and you'll say, wow, that was wonderful, because I have braved it, I have seen it. It was traumatic indeed, but then there is no gain without pain. Okay, so the best remedy is to experience everything gracefully. One or two internals, you'll have your setbacks. One or two internals are your favorite subjects, you do well. There are some teachers that you may not be in sync with. There are some others that you emotionally get attached to. All these things are there. But will you be so elated that you cannot leave the person behind after your 4 years of engineering? Or are you so exhausted with some things in your life that you're waiting to get out of it without actually going through the grind in a day-to-day enjoyable manner? So this is a small list that I made. It could be your vocabulary builder, and this will also help in your resume writing. Describe yourself in a few words, or your strengths and weaknesses. You can kind of pick up words from here. This is my favorite activity when I do resume writing. It also helps you build your vocabulary a little, so you can use the slide. Anyway, I'm going to share this particular presentation with the organizers. You can take it. All right. And then here also, know the difference between moods, emotions, and feelings. Words you can describe for a mood. Here are a few things. Sometimes we misunderstand or confuse a few feelings and moods with strong emotions. Actually, they are complementary to one another, but they are also exclusive. A mood cannot be an emotion. A feeling cannot be an emotion. Emotion is a little more deeper. That's one of the reasons why that I gave this list, so that you will know what is the difference between emotions and what is the difference between, and how moods are different from emotions. Though sometimes if you don't come out of your feelings and moods, they can intensify emotions. Okay. So as the great Robert Frost was an American poet, the famous, I have miles to go before I sleep. That's the famous verse. The woods are lovely, dark and deep. I'm sure some of you may have studied that in school, and I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. I believe our first Prime Minister was very inspired by that particular verse. So this is the same Robert Frost. He said the best way out is always through it, right? You just cannot stand in front of a tunnel and say, oh my God, it's so dark. I don't know how it is. I fear it. I'm anxious about it, etc. And neither can you stand, without ever thinking and just rush through it. And you know that there is a hole there, or there is a trench there, and you go deep down. So maneuver yourself in such a way, plan your things in such a way, strategize yourself in such a way that you manage your day-to-day feelings, which are a part of our lives, and you'll have a healthy personal, which will result in better professional opportunities and growth also later on. So from my side, ma'am and sir, the organizers, and my dear students, I'm done with my presentation. I will stop the sharing. And if in case somebody has any queries, I'm very willing to address it to the best of my ability. May I remind you that I am a faculty for human resources, communication skills, etc., but not a clinical psychologist, though I do have certain contacts, and whatever level we can address certain issues, we have done it. If it is not within our reach, definitely there are other professionals that can help you. But first of all, identify it yourself, be a strong personality, have a self management and self awareness. I don't think you may require the services of a counselor. That is it. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Anita, I think I'm done with my presentation, ma'am. If in case there are any queries, I'll be very happy to address them.
Madam, thank you, ma'am. Right now, there were no queries, ma'am.
Okay.
Be sharing the feedback link with the student, madam.
Okay.
Once they complete it, I will be also sharing it with you.
Oh, yeah, not a problem.
Yes, ma'am. And this recording will be available in the YouTube. The students will be able to see the slides and also the presentation again.
All right. Yeah. That should be good. As I said, in case. Anyway, I'm always available in case somebody has anything. We're there in the department. The team is always there. In whatever capacity we can help when it comes to their social issues, their emotional issues, we can address it to the best of our ability. Thank you so much for the opportunity to the IT services team, my institute, for recognizing the ability in me to address this particular forum, to share my views in a very small way through the induction program. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Madam, thank you once again. On behalf of the induction program team, I sincerely thank Dr. Kiran for delivering a very excellent session, madam. Madam,
thank you.
Listened to the complete session. I'm very happy with this. So I also thank Dr. Krishnaraj for organizing and hosting the session.
Thank you.